Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Danny Prikazsky, and I hope you have a coin at the ready for a tossin', because we're talking about The Witcher today, Season 1. This new Netflix series has a ton of lore, lots of rich backstory, going into like centuries of kingdoms rising and falling. So if there were little political details or timeline confusions, we're gonna clear up anything that you missed. That's what we're here for. Spoiler warning, not only am I gonna break down everything from this first season, but I'll also go into where the series might be headed for later seasons. All right, let's start with Episode 1. It's called The End's Beginning, and it's based on the original short story by Andrzej Sapkowski, that's how I think it's pronounced, The Lesser Evil. We meet Geralt, the Witcher, in the midst of a battle with a Kikimora, a monster from real Slavic folklore, traditionally an evil female domestic spirit. He rides into Blaviken to try to collect a monster bounty, but finds the town unfriendly to Witchers, except for Renfri and Marilka. Renfri shows him kindness, and with the line,
"More and more I find monsters wherever I go,"
she sets up a very Hunchback of Notre Dame theme of who is the monster and who is the man. Next, we meet Ciri and her sexy grandparents, Calanthe of Sintra and Aist of Skellige. During a game of knucklebones, Ciri looks off into space at an empty doorway, which we find out later had just had Geralt in it. Stregobor tells Geralt about the prophecy of the Black Sun and asks him to kill Renfri. The story about Renfri is kind of like a dark version of Snow White, right down to the evil stepmother and the huntsman who tries to kill her. Stregobor also mentions Falca's rebellion, a rebellion led by a disenfranchised princess who destroyed Mirth, the ancient city of mages. At a feast back in Sintra, Aist says that he saw the wraiths of Morhog, an omen of war. These are also known as the Wild Hunt, which comes from Norse mythology. In the lore of The Witcher, they're spectral riders in the sky, and within the Witcher saga, they turn out to be elves, who later have importance in Ciri's story. Renfri asks Geralt to kill Stregobor for her while he gathers herbs by the river. This is a nod to the importance of alchemy in the Witcher games. She mentions that Queen Calanthe has just won her first battle at Hoshboz, which is the first indication that we have different timelines going on here. Geralt and Renfri are meeting up about 30 years in the past relative to Ciri. Sintra loses to Nilfgaard, and Mousak scares Ciri with the prophecy of the Black Sun. Details like this appear in every episode to try to tie the storylines together until destiny binds them. Calanthe returns mortally wounded, and we can see that she's already wearing the sash that Mousak picks up and later the Doppler uses to win over Ciri. Queen Calanthe executes her final orders, mentioning to Mousak,
"He's in the gatekeep."
An important setup for the payoff that Geralt was in Sintra this entire time. When Calanthe sends Ciri away, Ciri taps into her magical powers for the first time, and we hear the sound of a lion growling, which is a reference to Ciri being the lion cub of Sintra. We hear the sound effect again when she uses her magic to escape from the Black Knight. Back in Blaviken, Geralt wakes up from a prophetic dream where Renfri predicts the outcome of her ultimatum.
"Your reward will be a stoning."
And we see that after Geralt slaughters Renfri and her men, earning himself some very anti-Witcher xenophobia from Stregobor and the crowd, who call him the Butcher of Blaviken. All right, on to episode 2, 4 Marks. The title references the amount of money that Tissaia de Vries pays to buy Yennefer from her father. Chronologically, this is the earliest moment of season 1. Yennefer begins the story as a disfigured peasant girl, but experiences a conduit moment with some bullies that alerts Tissaia, who then brings her to Aretuza. Yennefer meets Istrid, a novitiate from Ban Ard, a school for male mages. We meet Jaskier in Posada. His name means buttercup in Polish, but in the English translations and in the games, he's known as Dandelion. I guess the Netflix series didn't want us to call him that because they want us to take him, I guess, a little more seriously. By the way,
The pike with the spike that lurks in your drawers.
that's a penis. All of Jaskier's songs are about
Penis!
Geralt drops his last coin from his coin purse, a sign that he hasn't really been doing well since Blaviken. Not a great moniker to have over his head. Yennefer attends a magic lesson where we first meet her cohort at Aretuza, including Fringilla and Sabrina. Fringilla learns a brutal lesson that magic requires sacrifice, a lesson she carries forward into her equally brutal career. While Yennefer works on lifting her rock, she tries eating her flower, imitating what she saw from Istrid. Tissaia notices this and says,
"Sometimes a flower is just a flower."
this might be where Tissaia first suspects that Yennefer is connected with Istrid. After meeting Dara in the woods, Cirilla meets up with a family of racist Cintran refugees who bring up Filavandrel's uprising and general anti-elf sentiments. This keeps Ciri's storyline connected with Geralt's because Geralt later meets Filavandrel. This family also has a half-elf servant, which is exactly the fate Filavandrel predicts for half-elves. Geralt and Jaskier go to Dol Blathanna and have an encounter with Torque the Sylvan, who the locals have been mistaking for a devil.
Did your mother a snowman?
Jaskier learns the truth about elves being forced out of Dol Blathanna in a scene that plays out a lot like a high school student learning about the true history of Thanksgiving. Filavandrel tells the truth about the Great Cleansing, which comes up again later between Istredd and Yennefer. After a lightning-catching trial, Yennefer reveals to Istredd that she's 1/4 elf and her father was killed in the Great Cleansing. Istredd teaches her how to use Fenwood to summon untraceable portals, and they both report back to their teachers about what they learned. Friggin' narcs. Jaskier composes Toss a Coin for Your Witcher, ignoring everything he just learned. Yennefer learns what really powers Aretuza, eel slaves, which is kind of messed up. In episode 3, Betrayer Moon, based on the story titled simply The Witcher, we meet a different Witcher in Temeria. This Witcher is introduced while smoking, foreshadowing his death in a smokehouse as he fights the Vukodlak, or werewolf. Well, what they think is a Vukodlak. The symbol for this episode is the Striga's claw, but it also resembles the amphora from episode 5. The Striga emerges from the vessel of her mother's womb. Geralt passes a sign that says, Temeria, realm of monsters and cowards, with a picture of a donkey wearing a crown. This is really similar to King Midas from Greek mythology, who's cursed to have an ass's ears. The miners mention the usurper of Nilfgaard, which places this story after what's going on in the Yennefer episode, because in her story, Fergus is still king of Nilfgaard. In Aretuza, Yen and Istredd talk about their future assignments. Istredd is supposed to go to Temeria, and Yen to Aedirn. We learn that the girls are magically made pretty, but the Bannard boys don't have to be, hence Stregobor. The mage Triss Marigold brings Geralt back to the castle, and we learn that the monster is actually a Striga. Geralt suspects the King Foltest of committing incest with his sister, an accusation that gets Geralt thrown out once more. In a meeting of mages, Stregobor uses his knowledge about Yennefer's blood to get her sent to Nilfgaard instead of Aedirn. In this conversation, we also learn that Calanthe is not yet Queen of Cintra, so Yennefer's storyline is the earliest chronologically. Geralt and Triss find letters in a music box that confirm the unfortunate incest theory, and Tissaia meets younger versions of Foltest and Ada, and yeah, he's already got a crush on her.
Gross.
Geralt finally finds out from Lord Ostrit what he did to curse Ada and her child, and while he fights this overgrown abortion, Yennefer has her own uterus completely removed. On to episode 4 of Banquets, Bastards, and Burials. This one is based on a matter of price for Geralt stuff, and Sword of Destiny for the Ciri stuff. Jaskier asks for Geralt's help at a feast in Cintra because he's pissed off one too many lords by cuckolding them. Geralt meets up with his old friend Mausik at this feast, and he learns that Calanthe is trying to marry her daughter off in order to secure a strong alliance with the kingdom of Skellige, where her future husband Aist turns out to be from. We go to the Brokilon forest with Ciri, and there are surprisingly few bros in Brokilon. There are dryads there, and they explain to Ciri the history of men destroying what existed on the continent before them, including forests like Brokilon and including families of elves like Dara's. Geralt gets tied up deeper and deeper into the politics of this feast, and hey, fun fact, manticores only have one stinger. Yennefer has been at court for 30 years now. She escorts Queen Callis of Aedirn, whom she resents for being a childbearing vessel, but unfortunately for Callis, those kids aren't male, so the king sends an assassin and a hell monster after them to kill her. Jaskier sings another song about his horn which rises in the morn, and Calanthe talks to Geralt about how she resents male tradition. The feast is interrupted by Lord Urchion of Erlenwald, or Dooney, but this guy's got a lot of aliases, we might learn more about that later, who claims the law of surprise, in which favors, like saving a life, are repaid by that which you have, but do not know you have. In this case, the late King Rugnar's future daughter, Pavetta. Yennefer attempts to save Queen Callis' baby, but just as she tries to jump through a portal to safety, the assassin throws a knife that cuts straight through her and kills the baby. Ciri has a nightmare where she has literal blood on her hands as she watches elves have their ears cut off. This prompts her to drink the water of Brokilon so that she can forget the past of her family. Back at the feast, Dooney and Pafetta's love is revealed after Geralt saves Dooney's life. Geralt claims the Law of Surprise, just like Dooney did, and just like Dooney did, earns a Child of Surprise, this time Ciri. Mousic grabs Calenthy's sash as he's dragged out of Sintra. Okay, before I continue, thanks to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Make 2020 a year where you explore new skills, deepen existing passions, and get lost in creativity with Skillshare's online classes. What you find just might surprise and inspire you. Skillshare is an online learning community that offers membership with meaning. With so much to explore, real projects to create, and the support of fellow creatives, Skillshare empowers you to accomplish real growth. Skillshare offers classes designed for real life so you can move your creative journey forward without putting life on hold. You can learn and grow with short classes that fit your busy routine. They have classes and topics new Rockstars fans will enjoy, like animation, film and video, and creative writing. Some classes I'm going to check out include how to make dope low-budget films and color masterclass, simple steps to create vivid art. Skillshare is also incredibly affordable to join, especially when you compare it to pricey in-person classes and workshops. An annual subscription is less than $10 a month. Click the link in the description to get 2 free months of premium membership and explore your creativity. All right, let's move on to episode 5, Bottled Appetites. The Nilfgaardians transport Mousic in a cage made of dimeritium, a metal from the games that suppresses magic. In the title card, we see 2 bodies intertwined to make the symbol of the amphora that Yennefer paints on her navel later in the episode. One body is male, Geralt, the other is female, Yennefer, bound together by the magic of the djinn. Yennefer seeks fertility treatments, and she's surrounded by hourglasses as she tries to turn back the clock. In order to make money for her treatments, she sets up her own sorcery shop with lots of overturned horseshoes around. The superstition about horseshoes over a doorway comes from the story of Saint Dunstan and the Devil. Horseshoes up, that's good luck. Horseshoes down, that's some wicked stuff going down. According to Jaskier, it's been about 5 years since the Feast of Sintra, which we find out from Tissaia later in the episode, mentioning that the usurper of Nilfgaard has been overthrown. Geralt struggles to sleep due to his defiance of destiny with Ciri, so he seeks to find a djinn, and when he catches it, it marks wishes with cuts on his arm. He looks to find help for Jaskier and is directed towards Yennefer. Yennefer and Geralt negotiate a bargain in Yennefer's orgy room, surrounded by imagery of very, very phallic birds. Kumquat. Yennefer cures Jaskier in exchange for Geralt's company, and she finally succeeds in enchanting him after distracting him with the scent of lilac and gooseberries. This is a reference to the name of a quest in the Witcher 3 game. Yennefer tries to capture the djinn, but Geralt saves her with his final wish by asking for something that will bind her destiny with his, and now that he's playing with destiny instead of against it, Geralt finally gets a good night's rest. Doppler Mousic shows up in Brokilon to pick up Cirilla, and the credits roll with the song The Last Rose of Sintra. The lyrics of this song echo the notion that the Queen of the Dryads passed along to Ciri about the Sword of Destiny having 2 edges. It says her path could lead to happiness or the end of times for all. Now let's move on to episode 6, Rare Species. Geralt joins a dragon hunt with Borch 3 jackdaws and his traveling companions, Teia and Vea, who ask him to join the quest. They explain at a tavern that they're supposed to hunt a dragon in front of a fireplace that looks just like the gaping maw of a dragon with fire inside. Jaskier describes Teia and Vea as Zerrikanians. Zerrikania is a land known for 3 things: dragon cults, rare species, and warrior women. Check, check, and check. Yennefer comments on Jaskier's appearance, saying the crow's feet are new, and it's really cute that she's pretending like anybody has aged in this series. For reference, this is at most 7 years since the incident of the Djinn-incident. Jaskier encounters a Hrika along the path, and it follows him back to the group. Fun fact, according to the Witcher lore, Hrikas are even more rare than dragons, and look at this rare specimen, he's incredible. Take a second to appreciate, and he's dead. Sir Dipshit of Dennisley killed him. Thanks, Ike. Well, I guess he gets what's coming to him.
Who slits a man's throat while he's relieving his bowels?
Ciri and Dara are escorted by Doppler Mousic, who keeps touching Ciri's hair. He did the same thing when they reunited at the end of episode 5, and I think this is to foreshadow that he's going to turn into her. In the background of this shot, you can see a monolith in the distance. I couldn't find much information about these in the lore, but they are all over the place in this series. If you have theories, comment below. After apparently losing Borch, Teia, and Vea, Yen and Geralt make up and seem to truly reconcile. Fun fact, there's always fruit when they have sex. I think this is probably a negative juxtaposition with their own lack of fertility. Yennefer and Geralt discover that not only is Borch still alive, but he's a dragon named Villentretenmerth, which in Elder means 3 blackbirds. His pseudonym, Borch 3 Jackdaws, also describes 3 blackbirds. They protect Bort and his egg from the Reavers, but then we get 3 consecutive breakups. Dara breaks up with Ciri, Yennefer breaks up with Geralt when she finds out about his wish to the Jinn, and Geralt breaks up with the Askir because he's just a little too annoying. I guess you could say that Cahir, we finally get a name for this Black Knight, broke up with the Doppler too, and broke up with a bunch of people in a bakery. Breakups are hard, man. I get it. It's tough. Let's move on to episode 7, Before a Fall. Ciri tries to make her way to Skellige to find refuge among her grandfather's family, and when Geralt realizes that Nilfgaard is marching north, he seeks to make sure that his child surprise is safe. Calenthe's fear of her granddaughter's destiny makes her do awful things she wouldn't do otherwise. Like in Oedipus Rex or the prophecy of Saturn's children from Greek mythology, her attempts to avoid destiny only guarantee it. She tries to have Geralt assassinated, and so he loses his trust in her ability to protect Cirilla. Ciri is offered help by what turns out to be the most forgiving woman in history, and in return, Ciri steals this woman's horse, Clop, I think.
Or are you Clip?
Calanthe tries to pull the old switcheroo on Geralt, but through an act of destiny, Geralt gets wise. Just not wise enough to avoid getting trapped in the gatekeep. Enter Vilgefortz of Roggeveen. He talks Yennefer into returning to Aretuza, where she checks out her old stomping grounds and teaches some girls what botany is really about. Thanks, Rectress Spicoli. At one point, she sees a reflection of her old self in the mirror. This moment reflects the moment in episode 3 when Tissaia shows her what she would look like in the future. The mages have a meeting to discuss what ought to be done about Nilfgaard, and there's a recurring artistic motif around Aretuza of these Islamic geometries. They're beautiful and complicated patterns, but they also reinforce the idea that Aretuza deals in the arcane and the abstract. So they're bound not to vote to interfere. The fall of Cintra plays out again, but this time with Geralt, and we catch up with Ciri talking to her horse. Now, that's what I call destiny.
I talked to my horse.
Ciri's attacked by some ragtag Cintrans, and her magical powers activate. We end the 2nd episode in a row with this prophecy about the axe and the sword. This is Ithlin's prophecy. Ithlin was an elven prophetess who predicted the end of times in an ice age and a bloodbath. Fun lady. And finally, we get to episode 8. Much more. This episode's title is a reference to the short story that episodes 7 and 8 are based off of, Something More. Geralt runs into a farmer named Jurga, who's cleaning up the dead Cintran refugees. Geralt gets bitten by a necrophage and spends the rest of the episode tripping balls. The woman from the market, who we later learn is Jurga's wife Zola, finds Ciri in the middle of a field and takes her home. As the camera zooms out, we see that the blast pattern in the surrounding water resembles the amphora symbol once again. Ciri is a vessel for great power, which she released a bit of last night. Tissaya's rebel mages make a plan to defend the stronghold at Sodden from the Nilfgaardians until the kingdoms of the north, being led by Foltest of Temeria, can bring down their armies. An officer tries to convince Cahir to wait for reinforcements before trying to take the mages' stronghold. But thinking that Ciri has crossed the river to the north, he decides that he can't let her get away. Ironically, as we find out in the next scene where Ciri watches Fringilla's attack on Sodden, she's clearly still on the same side of the river as them. We get to see a lot of cool fighting between mages, but I want to zoom in on these 2 items that Fringilla summons. One is a nifty box of mind control worms, but the other, a little bit harder to track through the battle, is a bag of Dimeridium, which Fringilla uses to incapacitate Tissaya's powers.
Dimeridium.
Geralt sees and hears people from his past. We see the druid healer Visenna, Geralt's mother. How Visenna, a sorceress, was able to conceive Geralt remains unclear, but she abandons him, leaving him to be found by Vesemir, the Witcher. Visenna appears, possibly only in a dream, to heal Geralt. When he recognizes her, he confronts her about how horrible the trials of becoming a Witcher were, specifically the trial of Grass, in which mortal men are mutated into becoming Witchers. This is the trial that only
3 out of 10 boys survive.
When Geralt wakes up, Jurgen thanks him for saving his life and offers the Law of Surprise as payment. The mages nearly lose the battle, all of them dead or injured, but Tissaia gives Yennefer a touching pep talk and tells her,
Forget the bottle.
This calls back to when Yennefer didn't need a bottle to harness the power of lightning, but it also ties into all of the vessel imagery throughout the series. Tissaia is telling Yennefer to finally unleash everything that she has bottled up inside. Yennefer scorches the remaining Nilfgaardians just in time for King Foltest to show up with the northern armies. The day is saved, but Yennefer has disappeared. The following morning, Geralt and Ciri finally reunite, running into each other's arms, but with a continent at war and 5 novels left to explore, this is hardly a happily ever after. Comment below with your thoughts, and you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Danny Prikazsky. Make sure you follow New Rockstars for more breakdowns and theories, and be sure to check out this channel's newest show, The Big Question, in which Philip and Erik give you too much information about nerdy topics. This week's episode is going to be about who Emperor Palpatine might have had sex with. Yummy. I think I heard someone saying kumquat, so I'm just going to cut it right here. See you next time.